Hey everybody, Sean from Media Assault here, and it's time once again for another movie review. This time out, I've got sort of a leftover from the 1970s drive-in spectacular. This is Slithis from 1978. There's the front, and there is the back of the DVD case. And this is sort of, if you've watched any of the 1970s drive-in spectacular reviews that I did back in January, one of the more prominent themes was the environment gone wild, or gone bad. Man has tampered with the environment. Now the environment wants to get revenge, and something happens and a monster is created, and that theme is evident here as well. However, this takes it sort of forward one step and then two steps backwards, because it also combines that 1970s theme with a sort of 1950s B-movie creature feature like Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that makes Slithis. Slithis was filmed for $100,000 and made in 12 days back in 1977. Was written and directed by a man named Steven Traxler, and was made in and around Venice, California, which features very prominently in the plot. It tells the story of a high school journalism teacher who is looking for an opportunity to kind of get out of teaching and make a name for himself as a freelance journalist. And when these ritualistic type killings start happening around Venice, he starts to do some investigating and basically breaks into one of the victims' houses and starts poking around. Obviously, this was the pre-CSI days. There wasn't even any crime scene tape up around this crime scene. He just walks in and starts messing with stuff. But he finds this mud that he takes to his friend, who just happens to be a scientist of some sort. And the scientist friend tells him that it's this stuff called Slithis, which is created by a leak at a nuclear reactor, and it makes this bacteria grow into whatever it eats. So somehow it goes from being this radioactively infused bacteria into a humanoid creature that eats dogs and winos. I'm not quite sure how that happens or how long that takes to happen, but apparently that's what Slithis does to this creature, or makes this creature. And basically that's it. The teacher, his name is Wayne Connors, he goes around and tries to convince the police that he knows what's killing all these people, while they're trying to blame it on what they think is a death cult of some kind. And the movie sort of plods its way towards its conclusion, which looks like it was lifted right out of Jaws. And that's also another theme that seems to be kind of funny. A lot of these B-movies tend to be rip-offs of Jaws or The Exorcist. This isn't a rip-off of Jaws, but the climax of the film is definitely taken from Jaws. Being that this was a movie that was made for $100,000, I've got to cut it some slack. I mean, it was filmed in 12 days. It looks like it was filmed in 12 days for $100,000, except for the suit, the Slithis creature, which does not look like that so much. Again, it looks like that. It's actually not too bad considering the budget of the film. It looks a lot better, for example, than 1971's Octoman, which I don't think was made for too much more money. Even though that film had special effects done by Rick Baker, it was before he became the Rick Baker that won an Academy Award 10 years later. But one of the things that really holds this film back isn't the way the creature looks, it's the pacing of the movie. From the opening scene, which is a slow-motion game of Frisbee between two kids, it's obvious that the movie was filmed in such a way to pad the running time almost to the point of viewer exhaustion. The movie's only 85 minutes long, but there was a lot of times where I felt like I'd rather be doing a whole bunch of something else than watching this movie. There's one scene in particular, and some people think this is one of the highlights of the movie. Depending on your intake of alcohol while watching Slithis, that may be the case. For me, it was incredibly tedious. but there's a nearly 10 to 15 minute long scene. Now again, this movie runs 85 minutes, so this is almost 1/10 of the movie. There's a scene where a man and a woman, well, she's actually a teenager, leave a bar where they're featuring turtle racing. I'll leave it up to you to research that. They leave this bar. The film follows their conversation in the car all the way back to his boat where he lives in this incredibly cheesy bachelor pad. Then there's a whole setup where she gets scared by his neighbor. Then he comes back into the scene, takes her down into the below deck part of this boat that he lives on, and starts putting the moves on her. He puts on mood lighting and mood music and gets some wine. And there's this really awkward massage scene. And then he's kind of making out with her, and she's worried about the lock not being fastened on the cabin, so he gets up to lock the cabin, and the creature attacks. I'm not spoiling anything really. It's on the back of the box. But that whole scene takes 15 minutes to set up a kill, while it's one scene in the movie that's probably the highlight for, because it features some brief nudity for a PG-rated film. It's just so pointless. And the movie does that. There's these really ridiculously long scenes that feature dialogue that have no business being in the movie whatsoever. So like I said, if you're drunk watching this movie, it's just hilarious to watch this guy put the moves on this 18-year-old while he looks like some sort of reject from the Village People. It's really, really bad. And that's really the charm of this movie, is because it is so low budget and it is so almost ineptly filmed. It's got a charm to it. I have to give it credit. I didn't like it as much as I liked it when I saw it theatrically as a 10-year-old in 1978. But even watching it now, it still has some charm. It's obvious that the people at Code Red realize that it's hardly Gone with the Wind. And for that, you have to see the DVD menu, which repeats one of the classic lines in the film, delivered by a homeless person who sleeps in a public restroom. I won't spoil that for you. Slithis is certainly a movie that I should have featured in my 1970s drive-in spectacular, and as a really fantastic example of drive-in cheese, I would have to give this an 8 out of 10. As a movie, if I was going to rate this and recommend it as a serious film, I wouldn't rate it anywhere near that high because it really doesn't deserve it. But as an example of the type of stuff that was released at two drive-ins in the late 70s, this is a stellar example, and for that I would give it an 8 out of 10. It is rather expensive on DVD, and it's not exactly easy to find. However, if you really want to see it, you can watch it on YouTube. It has been uploaded. I don't know how long it will remain available on YouTube for free, but you can watch it that way. I don't know what the print looks like on YouTube. I don't know if it's a copy of the DVD or the VHS, but the DVD looks pretty spectacular for a nearly forgotten 1978 film. It's anamorphic widescreen, and Code Red did a really stellar job with what they had to work with. I mean, the print doesn't look it doesn't look pristine, but it definitely looks a lot better than it probably deserves to for a movie that was filmed in 12 days for $100,000. But if you're a fan of bad cinema, definitely check out Slithis. Thanks again for watching, everybody. As always, feel free to rate, comment, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And then stay tuned for more music, movie, and video game reviews coming at you soon from Media Assault. Thank you. Bye.